Hello team and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we are going to discuss about a lot of things, including how to prepare for DevOps, how to make sure that you qualify for DevOps interviews, what kind of projects we should put as a fresher, what kind of projects we should put as an experienced person, what kind of project we should put in order to transition to DevOps. Okay, so everything we are going to discuss side by side. I'll be sharing with you a proper syllabus using which you can start preparation of DevOps. Okay, so before we start that, make sure to you subscribe to the channel, which is almost like 41,000 subscribers, and we are very close to 50,000. And also, I have lots of amazing full hands-on videos, which will be really helpful for you if you are learning DevOps. Okay, so make sure to subscribe. Now, in order to start everything, learn and how to get started by learning DevOps, the syllabus that I'm going to share with you, it's the same syllabus that I follow in my upcoming course. Okay, my upcoming course is specifically designed to help people who want to transition into DevOps as well as people who are completely beginners, because we are going to learn everything from scratch to advanced level. Okay, and how can I guarantee that? Because from the beginning only, like when I was a fresher, I have been working in DevOps, and at this point it's almost 5 years, and I have handled more than 30 corporate projects. So what I can give you is, like, I can explain you the kind of projects we handle, their architecture, how we do deployments. So when you learn those things, you will understand in reality how things happen with respect to DevOps. You go. There are lots of videos on YouTube. Everyone can teach you like how to do build and deploy. But the one that we see on YouTube versus the one that we really do in companies, there is a huge difference. Okay. The best practices that we follow, and there are lots of things that make a huge difference that you should know. Okay, and that's what I'm planning to teach in my upcoming course. So if you are interested, make sure to register. The links will be in the description. Now, coming to the syllabus that you should follow in order to self prepare, as well as it's the same syllabus that I'm going to follow in my upcoming batch. Okay, so first of all, first we have module 1. Basically, this is the place where you should start learning DevOps, right? So first of all, you should learn what exactly is DevOps. Okay, first of all, you should learn what is DevOps. Okay, so once you learn what is DevOps, then you should learn why does it exist. Okay, because every tool that exists in DevOps, it solves a problem. That's why it exists inside DevOps, right? So you should learn what benefit does DevOps provide and how it is going to be really useful when working with projects, right? So also, like, you should understand the flow, because DevOps is all about a proper flow. Like, when I say the flow, that means like what we should perform first, like compilation, testing, when we should perform like sonar cube analysis, like when we should perform like dependency check, right? And when we should build the application, when we should when we should keep the artifacts of the application, where we should keep the artifacts, right? So these are basically the flow in which DevOps process happens. Okay, and this is like DevOps part. When when we talk about DevOps, then we need to understand the point from where the application got started building. That means the part of developers. So that also we should be aware, at least just for the knowledge, कि we know what exactly is happening. Okay, so that when developer lets you know that okay, we need to apply some changes, we should be knowing what kind of changes we are going to apply, right? So that is very important. That is going to be module 1 in our course, where I'm going to explain you the real DevOps workflow that we used to follow in companies, and this will give you the real time knowledge how things happen in companies, how DevOps task happens in companies. Okay, coming to next module, which is module 2. So for learning DevOps, one of the most important thing is learning Linux and shell scripting. Why do I say that? This is because basically, like, in DevOps, almost everything is done through Linux. Okay, almost everything is done through Linux. That is one of the reason that I say that Linux is very important. Plus, most of the automation part that we are going to do with respect to Linux, that is done through shell. Okay, now the thing is, shell is very hard, and if you want to become expert in shell, you need to practice it every single day, which usually I do not recommend. So in my opinion, learn Linux too deep, but shell scripting, just know the basics, so that at least if someone asks you that you need to like create a command, you can create a command because you know the basics. Okay, so that will be really useful, because putting so much time in shell scripting, that I wouldn't recommend, because it takes so much time to become expert in that. Okay, but you should know at least basics, so that you can, if it comes to like explain something, you can easily explain with respect to shell scripting. Okay, then in Linux also, so many things are there which we should be knowing. For example, in Linux we should be knowing like package management. Okay, then user management, then permissions, okay, how to change permissions, how to give permissions, those kind of things. Okay, then the basic commands. When I say basic commands, those are like copy file, then edit file, create file, move file, create directory, those kind of things, like basic commands, right? Then we have networking commands. So networking commands, where they are going to be really useful is when you do some troubleshooting, because when I was working in DevOps, so there were so many instances where we were facing issues while working with a virtual machine. So in order to make sure how we can check if something is wrong or everything is fine, so we used lot of networking commands. Why? Because our virtual machine was not physically available to us, it was on some other location, so we have to like run several networking commands to check if it is working fine or not. Okay, so that is very important. Then coming to shell scripting. So in shell scripting, basically you should know first of all basics of complete shell scripting. In addition to that, you should know the scripts that are being used in companies. When I say the scripts that are being used in companies, that means like backup scripts, the automation scripts. Then are like there are so many scripts with convert the file into zip format and share it to us. So there are so many different scripts. There are some monitoring scripts which will monitor your VM resources. Okay, so these are some of the scripts that we used to do, we used in our previous companies. Okay, and that's what I've see. The whole syllabus that I'm sharing with you and the things that I'm explaining with you, these are the things that I'm going to cover in my upcoming course. Okay, and if you are going to prepare by doing self preparation, this is the things you should focus on. Okay, coming to next. So next we have module 3, which is Git branching. Okay, so when we talk about Git, basically in Git, when you are preparing Git, in reality when you are working with like a GitHub or GitLab in companies, there are not so many commands which you work with. Usually like 5 to 10 maximum commands will be there which you will be working with. But when it comes to prepare for interview, they ask lot of commands. Okay, some of the very most important and most useful commands is like they will ask you git merge versus rebase. Okay, when they ask you git merge versus rebase, in reality we don't use the commands git merge or rebase. Instead, what we do for merging branches, we have pull request. We create pull request through UI. Okay, so still, but when you are going for interview, you should be knowing the difference between merge versus rebase, exactly how it works, right? In addition to that, you should be knowing like some other very complex commands like cherry pick. Okay, then stash pop, then revert versus reset. What kind of like revert, in what ways we can revert, or in what ways we can commit. These are some of the most important things that they may ask. And the biggest and most important thing with respect to Git for interviews is going to be Git branching strategy. Okay, now, if you go and watch any videos, they will share you lots of branching strategies. The general branching strategy, like having 5 branches for 5 environments. But in reality, to be frank, not every project in the world may have the resources or capability to manage multiple environments. There are many companies which just have 2 environments. In that, what branching strategy is going to happen? Okay, for example, like in one of my project I was working in, the budget was not so much. Okay, so in order to like we should be inside the budget, what we did, instead of maintaining so many different environments, we kept just 2 environments. Okay, and we followed a specific branching strategy there. So these are the things that matter a lot, and that also I'm going to teach obviously in the course. Okay, so make sure you learn Git branching strategy. In addition to that, the basic commands. In addition to basic command, these are the 4 commands that you should know, 4 or 5 commands. Okay, that is Git. And obviously whatever you learn, make sure that you are practicing it on daily basis. Then we have build tools. Build tools, even though like not everyone teaches, and the main reason that I say that you should learn build tools is because even though we are not going to write the source code, right, but still we should know the structure of the source code. Like which file is going to be the file that stores dependencies, which file is the file that is going to be the artifact, and okay, and which file we are going to execute. Okay, for example, like in Maven, we know dependencies is going to be stored in pom file, right? Node.js dependency is stored to be should be stored in package.json, right? .NET, it's going to be csproj, right? In Python, it's going to be, I think, requirements.txt file. Okay, so these are basic things that you should know about any kind of programming language. Usually, these 4 kind of programming languages widely used everywhere, right? So if you know the structure of at least the this project, you should be easily understand that okay, in what ways we need to proceed, how we can build this application to so that we can test it or we can deploy it, right? So for knowing that, you should know the structure of the programming language, which is the dependencies file. Dependencies file is one of the most important file in any project. Okay, so those things you should know. And yeah, I'm planning to cover these four types of build tools in my upcoming course, where I'm going to show you by building each of the different programming language application using these tools. Okay, coming to next, we have okay. So coming to next, we have CI/CD tools. Okay, CI/CD tools is also known. You can also call them as the backbone of DevOps because they support almost everything. They manage everything. They are the build and deploy process of your whole project is going to be managed through a CI/CD tool. There are so many CI/CD tools, but as I have always said that at this point, if you want to make a career in DevOps, you need to focus on cloud more. That means just knowing Jenkins is not enough. You should be knowing different CI/CD tools like GitHub Actions, Azure pipelines, and then AWS pipelines. If you are knowing these many CI/CD pipelines, then it is like really good for you to get qualified or for you to go for interview. Okay. So yeah, coming to like CI/CD tools, we should be basically have complete knowledge from the compilation of the project to deployment of the project inside a deployment cluster like Kubernetes. Then we have EKS and other things. Okay, so yeah, that's CI/CD. Coming to security tools, which is module 6. So security tools is one of the very important at this point in DevOps because everyone wants that their project should be completely secure and the whole process for build and deployment should also be secure, right? Now the tools that you see here, SonarQube, Trivy, Prowler, Docker Scout, OS dependency check. You know why specifically I have chosen these tools? Because they cover whole DevOps. Like SonarQube is going to perform like code quality check. It's going to perform the analysis on the code to find out what kind of syntax based errors, what kind of code based errors we may have, right? So that is covering the code. Then we have Trivy that is going to cover the file system. Okay, for example, if you are like storing sensitive data, password, credentials in our source code, Trivy can find out and let us know that this is not the good practice, you should not use this, right? Trivy not just for file system, it can scan Docker images also, right? It can scan Kubernetes also, deployment clusters. Okay, then we have Prowler. So as I mentioned, at this point, everyone is focusing more on cloud, learning more on cloud. So Prowler is a tool that can scan the whole cloud services, right? So if you are having a tool like Prowler, which can scan all the cloud services, so that is really useful. It can help us find out what kind of issues may be there, right? So that covers the cloud platform. Then we have Docker Scout. So Docker Scout is also a security tool that can help us manage our make sure that we have secure Docker images, right? Then we have OS dependency check. So this tool is going to scan dependency checks, dependencies basically. In your like whatever project we have, whatever programming language we have, each project is each programming language based project is going to use dependencies. Okay, so when they use dependencies, then basically they need to make sure that the dependency that we are using, it's not outdated, it's not vulnerable. Okay, so those kind of information can be found out using OS dependency check. Now these 4 or 5 tools that I have mentioned here, they cover the whole DevOps. Everything that we have, those can be scanned using these tools. That's why I have mentioned. And security tools is going to be really a boon. If you are going for interviews, you can easily mention that I was handling the security part also. I was making sure that everything was like secure, deployment process, the whole everything. Okay, coming to next. So next we have artifact management. Okay, so like whenever we build application, for example, let's say I'm building a Java based application, so the executable application is going to be generated in the format jar. Okay, and now this art that file that got generated as a byproduct, this is known as artifact. Okay, now obviously if you are working with the project, we may have multiple artifacts, right? So where could we store? We are not going to store them on GitHub or GitLab because they are repositories specifically for source code. Okay, and another reason that we are not storing artifacts there is because artifact can be of big size, can be of small, right? And the best way to manage artifact is using an artifact management tool like Nexus, Azure Artifacts. Then we have AWS Code Artifact. Okay, 3 kind of artifact management tool I'm going to use. And these three kinds of tools that I'm going to use is one is on Azure, one is on AWS, and one is on premises. That means you are covering the whole platform of artifact management. Okay. And in this, I'm going to explain in detail like how we can manage, how we can push artifacts, how we can fetch it from there, everything. Okay. That is artifact management. That is really one of the very vital tasks in DevOps. That also I have seen not lot of people are teaching. Then we have Docker, which is one of the most important tool actually. Okay. In Docker, what exactly you should study? So first of all, you should understand what problem does Docker solves. Okay. After that, you should understand that what is a Docker file, how to write a Docker file. Okay. And then yeah, the one of the main questions that they are going to ask in interviews from Docker file is they are going to ask that in Docker file, like what is the difference between add versus copy, then what difference between CMD versus entry point, what is why we are having so many layers, how it's going to affect, how do we choose base images, right? So all those things you should be knowing. In addition to that, you should know how to create a Docker image from Docker file, how to create Docker container from Docker image, how to work with Docker container, how to manipulate, how to go inside Docker container, how to find logs of Docker container. This you should know. In addition to that, Docker network and Docker volumes, hands-on experience you should be having. That is going to be really useful. Then we have multi-stage Docker file. Multi-stage Docker file is a very important concept in Docker that I don't think that everyone is teaching. Basically, in multi-stage Docker file, what we can do, it's mostly useful to reduce the size of Docker images, because generally without any precaution, if you are making Docker images, the size may be in GB. But if you are using multi-stage Docker file, you can make sure that the size of a Docker image is less than 400 or 300 MB only. That is really useful. Okay. And all these things you should be having hands-on experience. You should know how to integrate Docker with different CI/CD tools as well. Okay. Coming to next, we have module 9, which is Kubernetes. So Kubernetes, already yesterday I uploaded a masterclass. You should definitely watch that. In Kubernetes, what things you should know? Kubernetes architecture, components, how to set up local Kubernetes, how to set up EKS on cloud, how to set up Azure Kubernetes service on cloud, right? You should know how to write YAML files, what kind of YAML files do we have, like secrets, persistent volume, config map, everything you should know, and do proper hands-on. Now that is like when we talk about hands-on, that's like doing the deployment, right? But that is not enough. You should be knowing how to go inside the pod terminal, how to run commands inside the pod, how to debug, how to find logs of the pod, right? Those kind of things also you should be knowing. And that's I'm planning to teach also. Then we have IAC, which is also very important, infrastructure as code. There are so many tools that are available in IAC, but most important one is we have Terraform and Ansible. Okay. And these are some of the most important topic from interview point of view, because they are going to ask what exactly you have done in with Terraform. What can you say? So most common things that usually people create is EC2, which is fine. Then they create EKS, that is also fine. But when it comes to companies, you create a whole infrastructure, okay, whole environment. So that you should know how to create. Then working with Ansible. So in Ansible, you should be knowing, they are going to ask what modules you have used, what things you have done with respect to Ansible. Then you should explain to them a proper scenario, because this is what I have done. Okay. So these things you should be knowing, like deep dive you should do, understanding detailed how they work, how you can use them, and some proper corporate project you should have done if you are going as an experienced person. That is going to be really useful. Okay, that is like on-premises tools that we just explained, but actually cloud DevOps is also very important. You can choose AWS or Azure. I'm going to teach both of them in my upcoming batch. Okay, Azure DevOps, what you should know: how to set up an organization, how to push project, how to create project, how to push your source code, how to create CI/CD pipelines, and how to build and deploy to cloud services like Azure App Service, Azure Kubernetes Service. This you should know, right? And that's what I'm also going to show. And same thing I'm going to show with AWS also, AWS DevOps, like how we can build and deploy using AWS, code build, code artifact, code commit, then code deploy, code pipeline, everything we are going to cover. Okay. Then we have monitoring. So monitoring also very important. At this point I'm seeing like everyone on YouTube is just showing key how you can monitor the worker node, right? But in reality, nobody is going to do that. In reality, when you come to companies, you monitor a different set of things. Okay, you are going to monitor your resources like Kubernetes. Sorry, you are going to monitor your tools like Jenkins. You are going to monitor like the websites that you deploy, the traffic that is coming, how much traffic is coming. Okay, is it getting overloaded? Okay, in Jenkins, using this monitoring tools, what we can find how many plugins are there, how many Jenkins jobs are there, when was the Jenkins job last ran. In GitHub also, GitHub or GitLab, we can also find the same thing. When was the last commit done? How many projects are there? How many users are there? Similarly, in SonarCube, we can find how many projects are there inside SonarCube, how many plugins are there. So these are the ways that we actually used in our companies, and that's what I'm going to teach. Okay. Coming to next, we have, yeah, talking about now projects. Which project each one should add, right? So as a fresher, you should add, first of all, you should add full stack projects. By full stack, I mean that it should be having front end, back end, and a database. As a fresher, I'm talking, okay? This project, other than that, you should make sure that you are adding microservices based projects. I'm talking about fresher now, okay? This also you should be adding. In addition to that, you can add some open source project. When I say open source, you should find some good project to which you can contribute. Okay, once you contribute, your name should be there as a contributor, and that also you can add in your resume. That is going to be really useful. Okay, that is for talking about a fresher. When we talk about people who want to transition, or people who want to who are already experienced, corporate project is really useful, because as an experienced person, if you are going as an experience, they literally expect you to have a proper knowledge on like corporate projects. They may ask you what kind of project you have worked on. You are not going to say that, okay, I build and deploy YouTube clone. Obviously you can even think that working with YouTube clone is fine, right? But when you are going for interviews, you are not going to say that, okay, I build and deploy YouTube clone. That's not going to be useful. If you're going as an experienced person, you need to mention what kind of project, corporate projects you have worked on. Projects like, in my course also, like I have added like 4 to 5 I think corporate projects, in which I have explained properly what kind of projects do we have reality. Okay, like there is, let me explain you one kind of project that exists everywhere. Most companies, be it product based or service based, they provide some sort of like product or like service. Okay, so if client, in order for the client to raise a request for that service, they go to some website. Okay, so you can explain, okay, I worked on this website. This website was a location where clients can request. Okay, so this is kind of corporate project. Then you can mention, okay, I worked on back end, front end, database, then we built and deployed. Those kind of things you should mention. Okay. Rest, yeah, in my course, I'm going to deeply guide each one, fresher, experience, or transition, people who want to transition, what kind of projects you should add, how you should explain that as well. Okay. And in, first of all, when it comes to explaining a corporate project, you should mention what was the project about, what were the tools, what was your role. When it comes to writing your role, you should mention, first of all, first line should always be CI/CD. Okay, you did CI/CD, you can mention, I did some POC with respect to this. I integrated so many tools, Nexus, SonarCube, and other tools also are integrated with respect to this project. Okay, those kind of things you should mention. In addition to that, you can mention what kind of errors you have faced with respect to that project, so that if you are giving errors, then they will ask you how did you solve this. Okay, and that is the very good point for you to showcase your knowledge. Okay, this is how I fix the issues. Okay, so yes, and yes, that's me. Okay, so yeah, so this is the syllabus I would suggest you should follow. This is going to be really useful. Also, if you're interested, make sure to register for the course is going to start from 10th of March. Okay, if you're having any specific doubts, you can just ping me in Telegram anytime. If I'm available, definitely I'm going to reply. Okay, so that will be all for today, team, and I hope this video was useful for you to understand how you should prepare. Okay, so that's all, and thanks for watching. Have a nice day, team.